guy's like a 6-time Grammy Award winner. He's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like,
Right.
he's Dr. John. And when I met him prior to the show, man, he's like, he talks real quiet. He's real quiet in his voice, and he's moving real slow. And I'm like, holy cow, like, can this guy perform? But I'll tell you what, man, he got to that piano, he sat down, and as soon as the first note, he was like, and he just went. You know, he just
that's awesome.
And it was cool. You know, it was cool to see the music do that for him. Like, you know, he was still recovering, but man, the music just brought him to another place. And we had a nice exchange after the show, and he was very complimentary, and you know, so that was cool. And you know, yeah, I mean, I've gotten to do some things, and you know, Kansas. I'm with you on the Kansas thing. It's like, oh, that's Kansas.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Kansas. You know.
So the new project is Driven, and tell me about that. Is it different? It sounds different to me. It sounds like it's a little bit different direction. Maybe am I hearing that?
Well, you know what I think you hear, and I think it's what's lacked previously, with the exception of Aberdeen. I think my first 3 records were a little, you know, they were a little scattered. They weren't as tightly, you know, they weren't as cohesive as I would have liked them to be. And I'm not talking about, you know, stylistically, genre-wise. Like, I was talking with somebody. Oh, I think Al, the guy that I worked with on the last 2 on Aberdeen, and what do you call it? And I was saying something, I don't know if this one fits in. And he made some reference to a specific Beatles album. I forget which one it was. But he said, you know, it has this song and that song. Are they the same? You know, and I forget. Let's say it was like Helter Skelter and Rocky Raccoon. You know? He goes, do those sound the same to you? And I'm like, well, no. He goes, just make music. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And so that was a very liberating thing for me. It was it was a singular comment, but it's very liberating to go, yeah, like, because I think early on I got feedback, like, on one of my records, or maybe even when I was trolling around for a record deal, you know, well, your stuff is too many different styles or whatever, something like that. And, well, you know, and so I think what you hear is what I think I've accomplished on Driven for the first time is there's a cohesiveness on that record from beginning to end that threads through song to song to song. And even though there's little variations, you know, I got a little 2-step toe tapper, and then I have something that's, you know, people describe as being, you know, an a cappella song reminiscent of the 50s. And I got another one that people are like, wow, that was like kind of heavy. Like, it's a real rocker. And I'm like, oh, really? That's how you hear that, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I think the thread is those songs all come together nicely. I ended up, I think there's 13 songs on that record, and 9 of them I wrote in a 3-week period in the month of December. Last December, about a year ago now. I've written in little bunches, like, but bunches previously being 2 or 3. I don't know what went on during that 3-week period. All I know is that at the end of it, but it was really less than 3 weeks. At the end of it, I had 9 songs that I went, wow, these are good. I like these. And it really became the catalyst for the record. It was like, I got to go in and record these.
Yeah.
So I used those 9, and I pulled in a few others that I have my catalog is probably 100 plus songs, and I've only released probably 40 something of those. So, you know, I've got a bunch of songs in surplus. And so I picked off a few that I thought worked well with that set of 9 that I wrote in that time span. And then I really pulled together a set of guys that were also musically very cohesive, even though they haven't all played together as a unit. Cyrus and Fuzz played together in their own band, and with others, I used my rhythm section, Mark and Stuart, and then myself, and then I had Tracy come in as a background female vocal. And so everybody kind of worked with each other at different times, but never together as one unit, but that came together quickly. and then we recorded those songs over 2 days. We did 14 songs in 15 hours.
Okay, wow.
And over 2 days.
Yeah.
And and then and then I did a lot of post production where, I might have brought in, a mandolin or a fiddle or
sure.
Whatever. But the core recording was done over those 2 days, Sunday and Monday. And so I think what you get is that it was that. It's cohesive.
Yeah, and it has a real kind of fun 70s nostalgic vibe to it. We were talking about Kansas, and not that I hear Kansas, but that era of music kind of feels like it's peppered throughout. You were calling that cohesiveness. I kind of feel that almost sentimental when I hear different notes and chord progressions. It's like it kind of feels like something I've felt before, kind of thing. So it's really
And, well, it's funny. So I've gotten that a handful of times where people say it. They're like, like it's familiar. There's something familiar about it.
Yeah.
And I think you're right on too. I'm aligned with you on the idea that it's fun. And when we were trying to pick singles to start working the record before we release it, I gave it to a handful of trusted people outside of the band, and I just said to them, look, I said, tell me your top 3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing that happened was, let's say I gave it to 10 people. I might have got 20 songs out of those 10 people because you picked A, B, and C, somebody else picked D, E, and F, somebody picked G, H, and I, and then somebody else picked C, D, and G, and it was like, I started to realize it myself. I was like, if I just put the disc in of these songs right now and randomly let it start somewhere, this record could start with any one of these songs.
Yeah.
And it could end with any one of these songs.
Yeah.
So I really felt like that for the first time I had a record that I had not compromised on any of them, on any of the songs. I feel like I had the first record that I've ever done where I went, every song is good, and in relative terms, good to me. I'm not worried about pleasing everybody out there.
Sure.
But I left that record when we said it was finished with no regrets, no compromise, nothing that made me wince, nothing that made me go, we should have taken that out, or we shouldn't have left that. I left with every song going, I like that song. I like everything we did with it. I'm satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And that is the first time I've ever arrived at the end of a record feeling that way, which is largely, I think, because I essentially, for the first time, really produced the record, largely on my own. I mean, Al, again, I think I listed as a co-producer with Al, but I mean, I secured the band, I got the studio, I brought in the players, I insisted certain things had to be away, and I'm not going to compromise on them, and, the little bit of back and forth, well, I think it's good, no, I want to do this. You sure? No, wait, hold on. You hear that word? That says that. It's supposed to be this. That is supposed to be the, I get down to that much minutia with it without being crazy.
Yeah.
But in the end, for me, it's the best record I've ever made, and I've never felt that way about my other records. I've liked all my other records. I've seen a progression, but this is the first one I go, this is the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So where can people get a hold of it? I think you said that you're doing a little bit different distribution-wise. People want to talk to you, want to get the record. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of research on the business end of things over the last 3 years since the release of Aberdeen, and I think a common trap, and I fall into this camp. A common trap for independent, DIY artists, whatever you want to call folks like myself, who don't have the backing of a major label. The trap is you try and do what the major label artists are doing. And so therefore you're on iTunes and you're on here and you're doing this and you're doing that and, all this stuff. And, the missing component is, well, that record label might have a few $100,000 behind that record. I've got a budget that's a few $100. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so what seems to be coming out more as a truth is that, if you're an independent artist, you can't survive in the major label artist model and make it a lucrative endeavor,
right?
Financially, or get the attention that you might be looking
Mm-hmm.
for. And so, and I've had people tell me I'm crazy, but in this particular case, So Far Driven will remain off of all the, the iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. I'm going to drive people to my website.
Mm-hmm.
They can get a digital download of it there. I'm going to drive them to CD Baby for physical and/or digital there, and I'm going to make it exclusively available only on one of those two places, my website or on CD Baby. And so I designed this new website that's a direct-to-fan model, and I opened it up at the end of August, and thus far I've accumulated about 500 new fans via that website.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's been great. I mean, it's been great. And the cool thing about it is I've gotten into these dialogues with people via email or Facebook, and I'm getting to know these people, you know, and
mm-hmm.
One guy complained he couldn't open the site up and, kind of called out the website as not being that great. And I sent him a message and said, hey man, well, what happened? Let me try and help out. And, it turned into him being like, oh, I can listen now. You guys are awesome. And where can I buy your records? But that's the value of having access and content, connection rather, directly to your fan base, as opposed to somebody goes through iTunes. They don't know you. They don't know who it is. So, I'm going to try this and see how it goes. Thus far, it's been pretty good. So, we haven't released the record yet. It's going to release like in 2 weeks or so. And again, going to make it available through my new website and through CD Baby exclusively, and see how that goes. What's the worst going to happen? It's not going to sell any better than my other stuff, or it's
right.
going to sell better.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a no lose.
And what's that web address?
The new website is my last name. It's T like Thomas, OBIA, TobiaMusic.com.
Okay.
So it's just TOBIA music.com. And you'll see, you can go in there, you give me your email address, I'll send you some free music, and then it kind of puts you into essentially, I mean, to be totally transparent, it's a sales funnel. I mean,
sure.
It puts you in there, you're going to get some emails from me over the next, 2 to 3 weeks that are basically designed to get you to know me a little bit better, with the ultimate goal being that hopefully you'll be willing to support my music and make a purchase or two.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what I'm doing with it. And the first single, we released the first single, Phoenix, which is the one that was kind of an a cappella song, which is a fun song. And that charted to, I forget now, number something like, I think 13 maybe.
Okay.
13, I think it charted on one of the charts to number 13. It's just a single.
Yeah.
And I got a Christmas song that's going to come out now, because all those non-com stations and stations we're going after through the radio campaign, they go to the holiday music now from now till the end of December.
Yeah.
So we got a holiday song, an original Christmas song that I wrote that's called It's Christmas Time. And that's going to bridge us to January, and then I'm going to release another single off the record, off of Driven. It's called Shine On Baby.
Okay.
And that's, my radio guys that I'm working with, they're kind of like, look, the first one is just sort of to get people's attention and get your name in front of them, but that single we expect to go.
Mm-hmm.
We expect it to get a lot of airtime. And I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So, and it gets a good positive response. It gets a good positive response. The storyline is just basically about going to an Allman Brothers show, so I kind of pay a little tribute to the Allmans throughout the song. So, I'm a big Allman Brothers fan, and certainly with the passing of Greg and Butch recently, I think it's a little. I wrote the song a long time ago, but I think it's relevant. I think it's a relevant song, and so I'm excited about that, and seeing where it all goes. I just look at it as, I'm here for the ride, so let's take it as far as we can and get as much fun out of it as we can, and see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Artie. I appreciate getting a chance to catch back up with you, and excited about the new record, and certainly wish that it does well for you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Greg. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the time as well.
Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Americana Music Profiles. Find us on iTunes at Americana Music Profiles and on the internet at americanarhythm.com.